I am a third generation accountant in my family. Doing fractional controller work means that I can bring more sophisticated perspective into or insights into their accounting. It's an art. Like, not everybody can look at numbers and make sense of them like we do, right? I think that people will start realizing that they need to provide more consulting and advisory services, step more into that controller role. You have to be an active participant, whether it's in your personal life, your career.
Welcome to a new episode of Make It Count. Today we're joined by Melissa Armstrong, the founder of SteadyHand Accounting and Advisory, and a financial expert with extensive experience in financial leadership, business operations, and strategic advisory. Before launching SteadyHand, Melissa served as interim controller at the Young American Center for Financial Education, where she played a key role in enhancing the financial processes, supporting the accounting and finance team, and ensuring the organization's fiscal health. Prior to that, she was a corporate controller at ML Holdings Company, overseeing financial reporting, budgeting, and operational efficiencies across multiple business units. Her work helped drive growth, improve financial transparency, and support executive decision-making. Melissa's career spans years of experience in financial strategy, accounting, and business advisory, making her a go-to expert for companies looking to build a strong financial foundation. With SteadyHand, she now focuses on helping entrepreneurs and businesses gain financial clarity, optimize their operations, and scale with confidence. Her passion for empowering business owners and guiding them toward financial success is truly inspiring. I'm super excited for you to hear her story and gain insights from her incredible journey. So with that, let's dive in. Hey Melissa, welcome to the Make It Count podcast. We're super excited to have you join today. With this podcast, we talk to amazing accounting firm and tax owners and finance professionals. And I know you just started your journey, so we're excited to dive in and learn from you.
Thank you for having me. Excited to be here and chat with you for a bit.
Where are you calling from in the world?
I am in Denver, Colorado.
Amazing. Is it cold this time of the year?
It can be. It's a little cooler, but Denver winters are not as brutal as most people would expect.
Okay. How's the accounting finance industry in Denver? Is a very competitive landscape?
Yes,
Thoughts
there's
on that?
a lot of us here. There's a lot of work. I don't think accountants anywhere are going hungry. There's not enough hours in the day just to be able to serve all of our clients' needs. So, yeah.
Yeah, amazing. And I know you shared a bit about your amazing background in going from Big Four to starting your journey now. For the listeners that don't know who the amazing Melissa is, can you share a little bit more about your background?
Absolutely. I am a third generation accountant in my family. My grandfather was actually president of the Puerto Rico Society of CPAs, even before it was called that. It was called the Institute of CPAs, I think, back then. And he had his small firm. My father worked for him and then took over the firm when my grandfather retired and subsequently passed away. And my dad did that for many, many years. And I remember saying that I wasn't going to go into accounting because I remember it being very stressful for my father. But then in college, I took an accounting class and I fell in love with it. So changed majors, and that's where my journey started. My first job fresh out of college was with Deloitte. I was with their tax compliance team in Puerto Rico. We were part of the Southeast region of the firm, and it was very exciting because we were small enough that nobody was specializing in just individual taxes or corporate. We were doing both, right? And it was a lot of expats that we were serving from like big corporations. And then we would do the taxes, the Puerto Rico taxes for those big corporations that had a presence in Puerto Rico. So that was fun. While doing that, I learned of an opportunity to go work at Banco Popular, division of Popular Inc. They were starting the first big formal financial planning practice in Puerto Rico. It's a fairly new or young industry in the island. And this woman, ex-PwC, was starting this practice at the bank. And so she invited me to join her team. And I did that for 6 years. My practice was, of course, heavily based on tax planning advice. It was very exciting. And then after 6 years of doing that, I took a break. I went on sabbatical, went to Spain, lived there for 3 years, taught English.
Incredible.
It was a lot of fun. And then when I moved back, I chose Denver as my home. And then starting here, I went back to my initial love of accounting. Started working for this small firm, boutique services. It was non-CPAs. It was finance people that identified a need for like franchisors and startups to get their financials in order, either to grow their business or stay alive, or those that were looking for investor funding to be able to get that. And I did that for 4 years, and it was very dynamic. And we were also a startup, so we were growing with the clients, and doing all the things. That was fun. And then after that, I went to Plant Moran and did the same thing, except for bigger clients. Now working with mid-sized firms, clients, professional services, construction industry, and doing a lot more consulting rather than transactional accounting. Yeah. What else?
Then here you are, right?
I know. I guess I need to tell you how I decided to form my own firm. So
Yeah.
after
Congratulations, by the way.
Moran, yeah, I had this client. It was a long-term relationship. It was very successful. They invited me to join their in-house team as their corporate controller, which was an amazing opportunity, right? Being able to see how that looks from the inside. And it was great. And it was there for about 2 years. And then in July, we finally parted ways. And so I took a moment to think about what's next. What do I want to do? And just decided that I wanted to build something of my own that, matched my values better and allowed me the flexibility that I need in this time in my life.
Amazing. And that's how Capitalized Consulting was born, right?
That is correct. July 30th of this year.
Well, congratulations. It's still within the first 6 months, and I know you've done a lot and achieved a lot in such a short amount of time, which is really admirable.
Thank you.
But I do want to unpack a lot, and there's so much in that introduction that we can go from. And but I think one thing that really resonated talking to you the first time was just you connect on accounting, and you studied accounting in Puerto Rico, and I studied it in Melbourne, Australia. Obviously, nights and days, and I don't even know many Australians or would know much about Puerto Rico. And I think it's just really beautiful how like industry has just been able to just connect people in the space. And I'm curious, like, first of all, could you maybe just help listeners understand Puerto Rico a bit more? I know people probably like know about it from like Bad Bunny and stuff like that, and reggaeton music, but like, yeah, could maybe people in Europe or rest of Asia like could maybe learn a bit more about Puerto Rico?
Absolutely. You might have to tell me to shut up because I could talk about Puerto Rico forever.
Yeah.
So Puerto Rico is a territory of the United States. We are in a very interesting position because we are born U.S. citizens, even though we are not a state of the Union. We are just a commonwealth, right? To talk to the accountants and finance listeners and fans of the podcast, many of you might know, but some people might not be aware, residents of Puerto Rico do not pay federal income tax as long as their income is fully sourced from Puerto Rico sources, right? If that is the case and you have been living in Puerto Rico for a certain amount of time, you don't have to pay federal income tax. But that also means, on the other hand, that Puerto Ricans, we don't get to vote for president as long as we're residents of the island. So that's kind of the trade-off that we have to do. Lots of tax planning opportunities, and that's why it was a lot of fun when I was working with expats and was doing financial planning, right? Because there's a whole world of products and strategies that you can put in place in there to take advantage of that tax privilege that we have. So the CPA is a uniform exam. So regardless of where you are and what state you take the exam, if you pass, like it's the same exam, the results are valid everywhere. So it also means that it is the same framework in terms of like the principles that you learn and all of that. So it's pretty neat as a professional because the moment I chose to move to the States, like I knew that the only thing that I needed to do was apply for licensing in Colorado, but I didn't have to take any special tests, do any academic prep in addition to what I had already done in the past.
Very cool.
Which is great, and it's a little bit different than what an attorney experiences, right? Unless you're a federal attorney, your license and your knowledge are going to be directly tied to the jurisdiction that you're living in. With the CPA is different.
Makes sense.
It was pretty cool. It also meant that being in Puerto Rico, where our first language is Spanish, all the materials in the classes were in English. So our textbooks, the language that we use to refer about financial statements, like we'll talk about a balance sheet, we'll talk about a P&L, we'll talk about a statement of cash flow. They do have names in Spanish, but I couldn't name them because that's not how I learned them, you know? So we would have our classes be in Spanglish.
Really?
Wow. Yes, the professor would be speaking Spanish. We would be participating in Spanish, but we would be using accounting terms in English. And in general, business terms, for the most part, would be in English. So I just have this memory of like, taking notes in like my textbooks and my notebooks, even though the class was in Spanish, taking my notes in English because really you want to train your brain for that moment when you're sitting for your CPA exam. And back then it was a paper test. That's going to age me right now, but it was. And you had to write, I remember writing like the answers, like essay length answers to questions on paper. And it all had to be in English. So you wanted to make sure that you were ready for that.
It makes me really think about how kind of like non-English native countries like Spain or other countries or Puerto Rico or other countries in Asia, you have that challenge as well, like the language challenge, not only just debits and credits and understanding a balance sheet P&L, but you got to translate your native tongue to English as well, which is like another hurdle.
Definitely is. We do have the advantage that all the materials are in English, so we're familiar with the language, but I do have to say that if I am having a business conversation with another Spanish speaker not from Puerto Rico, there might be a learning curve there to kind of like navigating the terminology that they're using in Spanish because I won't be familiar with it.
Well, thank you for sharing that, Melissa. One final question on Puerto Rico before we move to another topic. Do you have like a favorite food recommendation of Puerto Rico, or if someone is visiting Puerto Rico, what should they do?
Yes. I feel like our staple is plantains. I would say that plantains are to us what tortillas are to Mexicans, where they have it with everything. So a pretty popular dish would be mofongo,
Oh yeah,
which
I've had
is
that.
kind of like lightly fried mashed plantains that you would put in like a little mortar. Ours are wooden, and you would just shape it or make it take the shape of the mortar so that you could stuff it either with seafood or fried pork or chicken or steak.
You're making me hungry. That sounds amazing right now. I think I told you I went Puerto Rico for New Year's, I think 2 years ago now, and it was a blast. So much fun.
That's awesome.
Maybe another topic. I want to backtrack to your firm that you started, and maybe you can double click onto that a little bit more on what it does. And I think you mentioned earlier it helps with like a lot of like outsourcing, financial controlling. But yeah, I'd love to hear more about this new journey you're on.
Yeah, so this came out of like my love and passion for helping clients navigate the accounting and financial landscape, right? Business owners, they have so much on their plate and they're having to make decisions on a daily basis. And a lot of these decisions, or the majority of them, are dependent on reliable and timely and accurate financial information, right? But they don't have the time to do this themselves. Even if they are financially savvy, they can't be doing that. And they need to be able to rely on somebody who can do it. Doing fractional controller work means that I can bring more sophisticated perspective into, or insights into, their accounting and their financial statements to businesses that don't necessarily have the budget to hire a full-time in-house controller, because they're not there yet, right? It also means that I can help support whatever team they already have in place, providing, independent oversight, providing training, doing that analysis and consulting piece. So really the possibilities are endless. And again, for less than a fraction of the cost that an in-house controller.
Amazing. Do you want to double click on like when you say outsource, finance consulting and controller work? What type of services would a business talk to you about in helping? Is it helping with month close? Is it helping with doing reconciliations, bookkeeping? Any tactical thoughts on that?
Yeah, it can start there. I can have businesses that have a bookkeeper, or they're doing it themselves, or they have an admin person like an office manager or something that's been doing it, and they start feeling that whatever solution they have in place is no longer enough and they need something more structured. But all they know or understand is that they need accounting, right? Just to keep their books organized and close every month. So I do that. I have clients. I just started with a client. They have their team in-house that they are intending to keep, but they want me to come in and take a look at what they're doing, make sure that things are documented, that there's processes in place to help manage the risk of turnover. I have had clients that tell me they don't know what their team is doing or if what they're doing is correct, and they want me to come and take a look and give them sort of like a prescription of what they need to do, and then help like implement a plan to make sure to get them there. So yes, recurring work, traditional accounting services, they also can do something more than that, where they want me to do monthly flux analysis or weekly cash flow management, traditional accounting things. But then there's a big component of it that is also consulting.
Amazing. When you share all that, you make me think about you're almost like the financial doctor for your clients.
Yes.
I have a pain about, I'll just call Melissa and she's there to help.
Yes, that's exactly it. Oh, thank you for that. I've been thinking about
a financial doctor.
Yeah, what I could call myself, so I'm gonna add that to the list.
Yeah, please do. I actually just made that up just then, which is really cool. Do you ever, I know you started your career in tax and helping expats with that, and you've since pivoted to like finance controller. So you've worked on like both sides and both ends of like this whole spectrum of accounting, finance and tax. Do you ever miss what you did previously, or what are thoughts on just like some of the differences in these different spaces?
If anything, I think it has helped me just to develop like a deeper understanding of what business is, and like expand my business acumen, right? It just helps me pinpoint things to my clients like, well, we're doing this, but you should be thinking about these other things that you should be talking to your tax expert, you should be talking to your financial advisor about, so that I can give much more of a holistic approach to it. Um, I don't I don't miss it because there were there were moments of my career where I was successful, but I feel like I had closure when they ended. And I feel like now I'm in the place where it's more aligned with me because this is where what I fell in love with,
Mm.
right? The debits and credits and yeah, the
I love it.
harmony of
Yeah.
the financial statements.
Something
Um,
balancing.
yes, but I think it also gives me the edge of like I use a lot of empathy with my clients in my relationships with them, and I think that experience with financial planning definitely helped
That's
me
awesome.
with
That's
that.
awesome. Yeah, I think it's so rare to have someone in your background that has kind of got your hands dirty in all spectrum from like the accounting, finance, and tax, and you come in with this lens of like you're not just thinking about your area, but you're thinking end to end about different areas and even financial planning. Like that's even you've literally done it all, which is I feel like super rare in this industry.
I've been very lucky.
Yeah, I can see why clients would want to work with you,
Thank
which is really cool. Maybe, maybe just a quick note on that. You mentioned you love like debits and credits and accounting. What do you think about the industry that you love so much? Like, what about accounting that kind of draws you into this space?
Well, it's an art. Like not everybody can look at numbers and make sense of them like we do, right? I'm grateful for the career that I have had because like you said, like look at all of the things that I have been able to do with my bachelor's degree and my CPA license. I
Yeah,
don't even have a master's, right? And just that has given me so many opportunities. I think it's a beautiful career to have. I think we're facing some challenges and we're seeing that in the number of people that are even going for an accounting major and wanting to come out and study. A lot of people don't want to do what I did. They don't want to go to public accounting. They don't see the value in putting in all the hours and the time to become partner one day or so I think there's a reckoning that we have to address now and see how we're going to reinvent ourselves so that the profession doesn't die because they are always going to need us. Yeah, it's a beautiful
couldn't
career to
agree
have.
more. I couldn't agree more. But on that note, that's a great segue to just the current state of the industry. And like you mentioned earlier, it's been pretty painful to see how much the industry is declining and it's no longer attractive compared to maybe 10, 15 years ago, where when I graduated in Australia, like all I wanted to do was work in like Big Four or like a mid-tier accounting firm, and that would be like a dream of mine. But 2024, I don't think many people share the same ambitions out of college. Why do you think we got to the current state of where we are today with this industry we're in?
It's the hours, it's the burnout. If you think about my parents, boomers, right? They were taught that you had to work hard, 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 hard. You basically waited until retirement to start enjoying the fruits of your labor, right? You were working to pay for a house, to pay for your kids to go to school, to have a nice car, but it was just hard work. And I think with technology, social media, open communication, also my generation now raising their kids, I think people are saying, wait a minute, I want to work and I want to make money, but I also want to enjoy life now.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't want to wait until I retire. And so, this concept of working, when I started at Deloitte, we would work 14 hours a day. And during busy season, that meant 7 days a week, right? And back then, I was in my early 20s. So we had the energy to do these 14-hour long days and then go out and party hard and then come back and do it the next day. But right now, it's like my generation. I see a lot of people leaving their jobs and starting their own practices It's just because we don't want to do that anymore. And how can we blame the people coming after us if they don't
Agree.
want to start doing it
Agree.
to begin with, right?
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. I share the same thinking. Just there's a lot of like low value perception as well. I feel of the industry like people don't value what an accountant, finance, tax professional brings to the table. Where I think they bring so much value if done right. The helping with growth, helping with like thinking through the strategic direction of a company and working with the leadership team collaboratively. So I think hopefully a lot of that changes. Maybe like just to double click a bit on the long hours. Long hours, a lot of repetitive work. What type of like work do you think most people were doing? Like, well, why were there long hours? Do you think like were they more admin related or stuff? Was it data entry stuff? Was it advising clients? Why do you think there's always been this notion of long hours in our industry?
I mean, when I look at it back then, it was like a badge of honor. It's like you're working all these hours. Look at you. You're killing it. You're so important, right? It
That's so
was
fun.
just,
That's so true.
yeah. The reality is, though, that maybe if we had had a normal workload, the hours would have been less than 14 hours a day because at some point you stop being efficient, right? So most of those hours, you're tired, you're spinning, you have to get up and take a break. And like we would dance in the middle of the night in the office to try to shake things up and make it more amenable. But it was the way it had always been done, and that meant that you were something. I don't know. Again, badge of honor.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, you see some leaders and they think that would be very admirable just to work from 9 to 9, and yeah, definitely not healthy. And I think that the new generation doesn't look at that as like being something they want to do.
No, the new generation will have a gym membership with a class, like a yoga class that they will do right after work or early in the day, mid-morning, and that is a non-negotiable for them. And if you don't understand that, they'll be happy to walk out and like find another job that will
Yeah,
accommodate to that.
couldn't agree more. What do you? I mean, maybe looking forward, and it's just a fun topic. What do you think needs to change in the industry for it to improve and maybe to attract new talent and make it a fun industry again?
I think AI brings an interesting opportunity. It is a chance for us to find ways where we can automate even more those entry level tasks so that then we can give access to people being able to do more consulting work earlier in their career, more analysis and things that they are more excited about. Probably bump up the compensation also earlier in the year, right? We all love money over, pizza parties and soft benefits like that.
Yeah,
And so I think part of it will be that how can we leverage much more of the work to AI for those things that really don't require a human interaction so that we can focus on the value add and teaching that piece earlier on to make it more attractive and manageable. It's these lower level tasks that are the most time consuming, right? So if we can make them be more efficient, then we can probably free ourselves more.
okay, maybe do you have any examples of some of these manual repetitive tasks that you speak about that comes top of your mind?
Yeah, importing transactions, reconciling bank accounts, categorizing these transactions. Somebody was coming to me the other day talking about how their client was growing at a ridiculously fast rate, coming up with new locations. It's a very digital business, mostly run through an app, right? And the transactions were coming into the bank and there was a lot of manual process in identifying the location where these deposits were coming from. And so, sure, there's tools out there. You use a third party tool, you create an import file that could take hours to get it right. And then you upload that into QuickBooks, right? and hopefully it goes all the way in correctly the first time, but then you have to import the bank transactions and you have to match them to those deposits. And so when you think about it, that could take 4 to 8 hours or even longer, depending on how many transactions there are. It's like you're consuming that person's time. You're spending a lot of money on their hourly rate to do something that is not really value add. The person is like, they could be listening to an episode on Netflix in the background because it requires no thought process. It's just very mechanical. So why would I want to have somebody doing that if there was a tool that could do it for them?
Yeah, big plus one. That's such a great example how I actually look back and we get our CPA degrees, chartered accountant degrees, and we weren't kind of meant to number crunch and do manual data entry, but a lot of that role of an accountant has been that over the last 10, 20 years of doing admin kind of manual related stuff. And, to your point, it should be a lot more strategic and value add, which crazily enough, we still aren't yet. But hopefully in the next 10 years, we will get there.
Yeah, we've come a long way. Like I remember growing up and my father having these like green pads with like the T accounts, right?
Wow.
So we've come a long way, but I feel like now we're at that time where, okay, we need to make a huge leap for the sake of the profession,
Couldn't
and the
agree
people
more.
coming after us.
I know you touched on this earlier, but I do have to talk about just AI a little bit since that's such a hot topic
Hmm.
now. Are there any interesting use cases you've thought about, or how you've adopted it in your day to day so far?
Not in accounting yet, unfortunately. That is on my list of goals for 2025 because I have heard of people that have created a bot that that helps them with their pricing, like pricing a job, right? And then anybody in their firm can do that. I would love to learn how to do
Amazing.
that because I have no idea. So I know that there are solutions out there, but I am sadly behind on those solutions. My interaction with AI is I wrote a blog post for
Nice.
the Colorado Society of CPAs. It's going to be coming out soon, so I'll keep you posted about
Oh,
it.
can't wait.
But I used it to like help me tweak it in the end to fit the number of words, to make it more concise in some areas, right? I didn't use everything because it sounded too mechanical, so I kept what I had written first, but then there were some things that it rephrased in a way that sounded more efficient, and so I did do that. I
Amazing.
used it for my social media posts also.
Is this ChatGPT use?
No, I'm using Gemini AI.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
What was I'm just curious, what was your first reaction when you used some of these AI tools? Like, do you remember, was this a few months ago
Yes.
or?
It was this year.
Nice.
So I was still working for my previous employer, and we were going through an audit, and the auditor asked me to provide an accounting memo on VIE accounting. And I was like, okay, finally got the thing put together and whatnot, gave it to the auditors. And then I was like, maybe ChatGPT could have done this for me. Let me see.
Yeah.
And so I went and I asked it to write it for me. And I was blown away on like how close it was to what we had put together. It was mind blowing.
Yeah. And probably took the fraction of the time, right?
Correct.
Yeah, I remember my first moment too. It was just like, wow, the future is here, which is really cool. Maybe just another topic adjacent to that of software and tech in the accounting industry. You're obviously just starting your new firm and you're thinking about scaling that. And you're probably looking at different new technologies and things you can adopt to kind of grow the firm and maybe less reliant on kind of hiring and kind of just be the superwoman and one-stop shop you are. What type of tools have you adopted in your firm so far, or things you're looking at?
Um, I will start with the old ones, the ones that people know, right, and love. I have been using Bill. They're now Bill, not Bill.com. I've been using Bill for the past 10 years with my
10 years.
clients.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
I will say that still to this day, it has provided the most value,
Nice.
and the faster impact to my clients the moment we implement it, right? Just helps keeps their lives organized, just helps with cash flow management, internal controls, and all of that. So that has been phenomenal. New tools that I am using now on my practice, Canopy for practice management. There's a lot that I still need to learn about the software, like creating my templates and automating the tasks. But the thing that I am blown away by is the ability to incorporate the engagement letter into the system and send it out as a proposal. And if the client likes it, they can accept it right then and there. It immediately shares a signed copy with them and with me, right? And then they can create a portal there and just doing all of these things that just makes my life easier, right? I'm just thinking of things that an assistant would do when I was at Plant Moran. I've cut that need at
Amazing.
least in half.
Yeah. With Bill.com, what are you mostly using it for? Is it for like invoicing, billing?
Yes, yes. Invoicing, I share documents securely with them,
Nice. Yeah.
and that proposal, initial proposal engagement letter.
That's really cool. It's cool to see, yeah, some of the tools and how you're looking to adopt like kind of tech and automation to kind of scale and grow. I guess maybe do you have any advice for tech builders or engineers in the space building for accounting firms or accountants and tax professionals? I'm sure you've seen a lot of tools. What do they usually miss or get wrong? Or do you have any advice on kind of founders in this space on things
There's
they
so
should think
many
about?
out there. It's always an integration on an integration on an integration,
Yeah.
right? I think you and I talked about,
Yeah.
we did for a little bit, all of the apps that I am using. I think the challenge will be that you creating something that reduces the number of integrations that you need to have as a firm, but still it's like it has to be really good and be able to compete with these standalone ones, right? So you have the accounting, but now you want to have the FP&A, right? You want to have the financial modeling, and then you want to have the bill pay and the invoicing and the practice management. So it'll be like doing all of this in a way that is financially accessible and like really solid
Yeah. Yeah.
in all areas.
I love
So,
that. I couldn't agree more. Yeah, just creating a magical, unified experience that everything talks to each other, and I think that's definitely the future. And you'll have less logins to remember, right?
oh my gosh, yes.
Amazing. Maybe also like just looking ahead before I know we're approaching time, but like, what do you kind of how do you see the industry evolving over the next few years? Like, what kind of excites you?
Yeah, I'm excited to see the technology. I honestly love it. It can be hard, and some clients and providers resist new technology, right? But I feel like if you lean into it, it can bring a lot of freedom, which is what I want to do, right? I want to be able to help my clients, help them make money myself, but also have time to play.
Yeah, you want to be in Puerto Rico on the beach,
Exactly.
right? That's you don't want to be doing bookkeeping 8 hours a week. Awesome, I love that, Melissa. Well, we are approaching time, and I like to close off our podcast called use the Fast Five segments, which are 5 quick questions to get to know you a bit better. First one is maybe about your role of outsourced financial controller. What's one thing you like the most and one thing you dislike the most?
As financial controller, I like being able to empower accounting teams at my clients. And what I dislike the most is when people ask me, okay, but what about taxes? Which I don't do.
I love that. I can hear this like common and constant thread throughout this podcast that you're very customer obsessed. You really care about your customers and you go above and beyond. So, and I think a lot of accountants, if you ask them why they do this, it's because of relationships they build and the ability to help and serve their clients doing cool things, right?
Yep, that's true. That old image of the accountant just being at their desk and like, being a boring person, that's all in the past. The profession has evolved and I just love it, being.
That's awesome. The human element, I think, over the next 10 years is going to be even more powerful than the previous 10, which is actually crazy saying that.
Yep.
But yeah, it's going to become more important. Cool. Next question, maybe back on the AI and tech, topic. What's one problem or use case that you're excited about for AI or technology to solve for you or your clients?
AI to solve for me or my clients. Yeah, I would say that entry-level data entry automation that's smarter and can almost like take care of itself.
Yeah. Almost like Lisa having her own financial assistant. And you're not a financial doctor, so it'll be a perfect tag team.
Exactly.
Maybe looking forward and thinking about the kind of financial controller role, how do you think that will evolve over the next 5 years or so?
Actually, no, it will not disappear. I feel like the bookkeeper role is going to disappear. I think that people will start realizing that they need to provide more consulting and advisory services, step more into that controller role, and it'll probably push people like me into more of a CFO role.
Nice.
Right? Because the low level work is going to be taken care of.
Yeah. Does that excite you, that future?
Yes, absolutely.
Amazing. Big plus one to that. Maybe a deep one, but what's your favorite quote or mantra that you like to live by?
I always like to say that you have to be an active participant, whether it's in your personal life, your career, your business. Like nobody's coming to rescue you. Things are not going to magically happen for you. You have to be an active participant and you have to be your own advocate.
Couldn't agree more. Yeah, you definitely, if you're on the sidelines, like nothing's going to happen. Big plus one. That's actually very aligned to one of my favorite quotes. So I love that you called that out.
What's yours?
It's something, it's by Roosevelt, and it's like something around, it's better if you're in the arena and you're fighting and you're battling versus then being on the sidelines and just criticizing and so forth. So it's actually almost the same message as your favorite one, which is and I'll share it with you after the podcast, but I forgot the exact wording, but it's my favorite by far.
Yep, love that. You're starting in it.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Last one. What do you need help with right now? How can listeners help you?
I want more opportunities like this one. I want to come and talk to people about what I love and enjoy, maybe tackle the audience's questions around their accounting and their team. I just want to connect with people. So
Amazing.
More podcast opportunities for me, please.
Yeah. Everyone heard that. Get Melissa on your podcast. But thank you so much. I had so much fun over the last 45 minutes, and we talked about all the amazing things that has came out of Puerto Rico. There's been some great recommendations from yourself, so people are going to love that, and about just the history of accounting. And so thank you so much for your time, Melissa. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, David, and I am looking forward to doing this again, hopefully.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Melissa. We'll talk soon. Thank you for listening to another episode of Make It Count. We hope you found it valuable and entertaining. If you enjoyed the episode, please support us by subscribing to our Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube channels. Please also give us a rating or leave a review to help us reach more listeners. We'll see you in the next episode for more incredible conversations with accounting, finance, and tax leaders around the world.